Hello everybody, I'm Hazel. Welcome back to my channel all about ice cream. And nice to see you all here in 2025. If my plan has gone as I planned, this is released on New Year's Day itself, so Happy New Year. So this is apart from the chocolate bonanza, which was kind of in my head from a few weeks ago, this is the first ice cream I am making without the guidance of the sort of weekly themes going on. And people that watch the slow ice cream, which at the time of filming this was one person, thank you to whoever that viewer was. So not many people would have seen that. But I said in that ice cream, I had an idea of what I was going to do, but it depended on something happening over Christmas that may or may not happen. Well, it didn't happen. The thing that I needed to happen was I needed someone to gift me some tea. Pretty much every Christmas and birthday for the last few years, someone has given me a pot of tea, a bag of tea, carton of tea, container of tea. And I thought it had happened. So I had one gift. It was making, in fact, I'll rattle the gift itself off camera. It was making that noise as I was putting it under the tree. It wasn't this, but it was in a box that was shaped more or less like this, which is a box of tea. And I thought, yep, we're on. I know what this gift is. Tea ice cream is a go. And then I opened it. And I will just say right now, this is not a disappointing gift because I never would have bought this for myself. But I opened it and it was this. And I was so confused. I was looking at it thinking, that doesn't look like any tea I've ever seen. Why does it say curry on it? It's a spice mix for the earliest written down curry recipe, at least in sort of English cookery books. And I love curry and I like historical cooking. So that fits in with what I do. But it wasn't tea and it really confused me. And it really threw the idea for this week off a little bit. Because whilst I can go and get tea, I hadn't. I'd run really quite low on my tea supplies, thinking, yeah, I'm probably going to end up stocking up over in sort of towards the end of December. However, what one of my other friends did get me is this, which I can only describe as an ice cream lolly making kit, which is excellent. I never would have bought this for myself. I have opened it, by the way. This is not an unboxing video. What you essentially get is these little moulds, which they look a little bit damp, they've just come out of my dishwasher. It says it's dishwasher safe. And the idea being you push down the inbuilt stick, you fill it up with ice cream, freeze that, and after it's frozen, you melt down some chocolate into this pot and dunk it in there. You have a chocolate-covered ice cream lolly. It also came with ice cream recipes, not many, only a few, and this is where I am going to open the box to show you this booklet. They're written quite interestingly. The recipes themselves, I was going to say they're not interesting, that's not what I mean. They're mostly standard ice cream recipes. They're not how I make ice cream generally, but I'm flexible. I like making different things. But they're just written interestingly. So they have the sort of ingredients list as a series of symbols. And then when you open up the booklet, you kind of match up the symbols to what they represent and follow the pictorial instructions. I'm not really a pictorial person. It's not a way I learn or take information in, and I struggle to follow that, so I turned it into words. And ironically, what we ended up back at was a form of tea ice cream. So there were a few recipes in there. One of them sounded really good, but used a hard to source ingredient that I'm never going to use for anything else. So I didn't really want to buy it just to use 15 or 20 grams of it in one ice cream. One of them also sounded very nice, but included dates. I'm allergic to dates, as I found out at some point over last year when I ate them in a dessert. And the other one is yogurt, and I absolutely hate frozen yogurt. It's too sharp and sour for me. So what I ended up at is a fairly standard recipe for matcha tea ice cream. It's a custard base. I turned it into words, so let me get my phone over where I wrote that all down. And for reasons that I will explain in a little bit, I'm going to be making 3 times the amount of it. So the actual recipe is 150 grams of milk. Oh, also, apart from water, bizarrely, which doesn't appear in this recipe anyway, every single ingredient was in grams, which I like, because if you know exactly how much you have of it, you can work out all the percentages. I probably won't bother doing it on this recipe because it's not like it's going to become a new base recipe for me. I just wanted to have some fun with it. But once you know what you've got, you can work out everything about it. You know exactly what you can modify. If what you've done it in these volumes, you don't know, you may as well have measured it out with a saucepan. You have no idea what you have. So anyway, the recipe is 150 grams of milk, which we have over here. Around Christmas time, oh, this is why I hate this milk. It always leaks. Oh, does that mean it's leaked in my fridge? Please don't have leaked in my fridge. There's a tiny little bit. That's easy enough to wipe up, though. Sometimes it drips everywhere. I digress. What was I about to say? Oh, I was about to say that my supply chains get a little bit disrupted around Christmas. Plus, at the time that I was getting my last order of things like milk and cream and eggs, as you'll see in a minute, I didn't know I was making this. So these ones mostly, apart from a pot of cream I had left over from the chocolate bonanza, these ingredients all came from the local supermarket, which is why they all look a little bit different to some of the ones you've seen previously. How far had I got? I hadn't got very far at all, had I? 150 grams of milk, 7 grams of matcha powder. Now this stuff turns out to be not actually that difficult to get, but in really small volumes. I ended up having to buy 2 boxes of it because a single box only comes out to 10.5 grams. So whilst it's 7 grams in this, because I'm making 3 times it, I needed 21. You also needed 3 egg yolks. I have actually split, but not intentionally split, separated the eggs before this, because times it by 3 means I end up with 9. That's a lot of egg separation to watch. And then 60 grams of sugar and 75 grams of cream. I'm a little bit worried that may not be quite 225. It's not going to be far off of it, I don't think. But I might need to end up, this is the leftover pot, well, most of a leftover pot of whipping cream. But I might need to top up with a tiny amount of the single cream that was left over as well. Oh, by the way, on top of my single cream, in the chocolate bonanza, I actually went out and got more. Because it occurred to me that if I made 2 of them at a fifth less of the amount, I was going to know which ones were, I was at least going to know which manufacturer of ice cream was which, of chocolate was in which batch of ice cream even. So I went out and got more. So I've actually got more single cream than I need now. So I might end up having to top up the amount of cream with some single cream. Now the recipe for this is a little bit strange. It had you doing the milk and matcha powder first, then adding the eggs and the sugar, and then taking it off of the heat and adding the cream. I don't get why. I see this a lot in recipes. They put in so many extra steps, and you think, why did you bother doing that? You could have combined all of that, made one step, it would have made no difference. You see it with ingredients as well. I remember seeing one recipe that was American. So it was heavy cream, milk, and half, except half and half is a combination of heavy cream and milk. So why not just do more of the cream and milk and leave out the half and half? I don't know. So I'm going to be amalgamating this. I'm going to be putting basically everything in the saucepan all at once and just whisking it. So as I say, the recipe itself is 150 grams of milk, but I need 3 times that, so I need 450. And I need to get a bag for the pot of milk. That's annoying. Just trying to take the little plastic cover off of it, and it's split. There we go. So 450 grams of the milk. Let's pour it from this side, I think. That was an interesting noise. Don't really know what made that. Just gone past 400, 430 practically. Don't want too much more. 48, 451, that'll do. Remember, ice cream, not baking. You're not going to ruin it by having an extra gram of something. And then the recipe is 7 grams of matcha powder, but that is all of these matcha powder. They come in, they say they come in sticks. Oh, they're like, my hand's big enough to hold it all. No, my hands are actually not big enough to hold all of them. They're like the little sachets of sugar you get. So my apologies, this is now the boring part. I took away the boredom of watching me separate eggs, and I've replaced it with the boredom of watching me shake powder into milk. Tip from a bizarrely a mead making channel that I watch. I don't know why I watch a mead making channel. In fact, no, I do know why I ended up watching a mead making channel, but I don't know why I carried on watching a mead making channel. I'm never going to make mead. I don't drink. I started watching it because I was looking at buying the official Skyrim cookbook, and I wondered if anyone had made any of the recipes from it. And what this channel did is, as far as I can tell, I still haven't actually bought the Skyrim cookbook yet. I got the Fallout one. That's on a shelf just behind me. Oh, when we get to churning, you're going to see that my shelving has made, well, you might see it because I don't put too many of the background in it anyway, but you might see my shelving is now a little bit different in that I've now replaced a couple of bottles with my cooking books. The reason I did that is I somehow managed to get lots of water on that shelf. It's where I just turned the tap around to put the duvet over the worktop whilst I'm filming. And I hadn't noticed this until the end, so I've got to take everything off the shelf and tidy it. And this shelf has been... It's one of the... I'm sure I'm not the only one that does this. I looked at it every now and then and thought, yeah, I'm going to have to tidy that up. But it wasn't intrusive. It wasn't like rubbish. It was things like bottles that I could store somewhere else, or my ice cream cone holder is on that shelf and actually still is. So things that aren't mess as such, but probably could have a better place, but they're not getting in the way anywhere. So I never got round to tidying it. This is really tedious. Once I've run out of things to talk about, I may end up fast forwarding through some of this. But given that I had to get everything off of it anyway, I thought, well, I may as well tidy it at the same time. And I just thought it made more sense to have cookery books near to me in the kitchen. And also, 1.5 grams, each of these sachets is 1.5 grams, is a surprising amount of powder. That is kind of luminous green. Got a friend who would love that. He bought a house earlier this year, and I keep on teasing him that I expect one day to just go around there and there'll be a lime green feature wall in every room. Where had I got to? Right, the Fallout cookery book. So I own the Fallout cookery book, but I still don't own the Skyrim one. But as far as I can tell, the Skyrim cookery book had like a base recipe for mead, which I presume is representative of the Nord mead that appears in the game. And you then added different things into it to turn it into kind of blackbriar mead or honey brew mead, etc., etc. And this channel had done it. So I was watching it really just for that, to see if the recipes worked out. But I found their way of talking really interesting. Their videos are a little bit like these, actually. Not exactly the same, because you actually see them doing the things whilst they're talking about it. But it's very much, you go through the process, you are making a mead. And I just carried on watching them because I enjoyed it. I thought they were interesting. They seemed pleasant people. I have no idea whether there's good value in what they're saying, because I don't and will never be making mead. Why have I talked about the mead making channel? Because I was thracking the packet. That's why I was talking about the mead making channel. Tip from it is, if you mean to, they do it on yeast packets, but you get to the end of it and you thwack the packet and you get the bits in it that are staying in there. Right, I kind of ran out of things to talk about whilst I'm just tipping out powder. So I'm going to fast forward through this next part of it and catch up with you once all of the matcha powder is in the saucepan. And that is 14, was it 7 sachets per thing? It was full. That's now 14 sachets of organic ceremonial grade 100% pure matcha powder in milk. Then come the eggs, and I have started the year as I mean to go on. I need to get something out of the drawer. In my defence, at the time that I was getting things out of the drawer, I didn't know the eggs would split. And what I need is the small spatula. It's the first thing I pulled out as well. So they will just go in there. Just need to scrape it a little bit. If they hadn't split, they just plop into the milk. And there's no spatula needed. But they did split, so that became a moot point. Then 60 grams of sugar. So that's going to be 180 because I am doing 3 lots. I won't, though, need to do 3 lots of the chocolate, and that briefly panicked me because the recipe actually calls for white chocolate, but I've got so much chocolate left over from a combination of Christmas and the chocolate bonanza that I am just doing dark chocolate. But I didn't, if I needed to, it's 150 grams of it you need, and I was thinking, if I need to times that by 3, I don't know that I've got 450 grams, but I have got 150. So 180 grams of sugar, which will probably be the only thing that can elevate this smell of this matcha powder. It smells disgusting. I don't know why people are eating this. What's that? It's 176 or 116. That looks like an 8. Just try and wiggle that just very slightly. 180. Yep, there we go. And then comes the cream, and as I say, I'm not sure. So the recipe calls for 75 grams of cream, so I need 225. But I'm not actually sure I've got 225. I might only have about 210. Oh, I need a little spoon as well. This one I have no defence on. So just put that into... That didn't go very well, did it? Put it on top of the matcha pile. Okay, that was 5 grams of that because I forgot to reset it. So now I need 220 out of the pot. Yeah, this isn't going to reach 220. I'm not sure it's even going to reach 200. Just scrape out everything that I can. It's not going to reach 200. In fairness, the recipe didn't actually specify what cream to use. It just said cream. So it's not the end of the world if I need to put a little bit of the single cream in, which I am definitely need to put a bit of the single cream in it. I didn't think I'd use that much of this, but obviously I did. That's probably going to be close to 185 grams by the time I've scraped off this little bit. Not quite 182. What did I need? I need to get up to 200 because I'd already put 5 grams in. So I'll just top it up with a little bit of single cream. That's fine. As I say, this is a fun ice cream. This is not... I mean, they're all fun, but it's not one of my follow this recipe to make it in a nice historical method. So 220, nearly there. 16, 18, 19, 20. There we go. It's very strange. Once I've used this, and I probably will just pour this on something, I'm going to have no cream in that fridge for the first time in months. In fact, probably a couple of years. So that is all of the ingredients. Let's uncatlock the hob whilst that happens. Let me just grab a drink. There we go. And then, as standard, whisk it until it forms a custard. My God, that is green. I don't look this green in the photo. Oh, the recipe also called for a decorative powder. I can never pronounce it. It's something lines with spirinula. It makes like a bluey, greeny, turquoisey colour. I'm not buying spirinula powder for decorating one ice cream. If I'd had any match left over, what I probably would have done is mix that into it and got myself a green. If I really want something, I do have food dye. But honestly, I'm not that bothered about them being decorated. Yours, I think, I don't know that much about matcha tea, but you are, I think, supposed to froth it anyway, so not too worried about a froth forming. Would like it all to combine, though. At no point does the recipe say to sieve the mixture. Depending on how well it combines, I might anyway. Oh, that's out of my hand. Should I get my... I do have an electronic version of this. I don't generally need it. It's only on very bad days that I need that. You know, I might sieve this because I don't think I want big blobs of matcha powder, of undissolved matcha powder in my ice cream. Maybe this is why it tells you to mix it into the milk first. What I am going to need to watch out for is when I pour this into the ice cream machine, because it is thinner, it will pour much easier. So I need to watch out for not just throwing it everywhere. Right, I think we're starting to get somewhere now. I'm seeing less of the powder just on the top. It's going to be, there's not as much egg in this as my standard one, so it's not going to have, well, actually, is there? Wait, there is a fair bit of egg in this. So the original recipe made 330 grams more or less of mixture, of which 45 grams roughly would have been egg yolk. So you do 45, 90, 135, 180, 225. That is hard whilst you're also trying to whisk and not go everywhere. I've got to 225, 270. I've not actually been counting how many times they are. Do you know what? That isn't something that would challenge me normally, but I'm not good at multitasking. Whoever said women are good at multitasking lied. 13%. Actually, that's about the same amount percentage-wise of egg as I usually use. I usually use about 15, either 10 or 15. Right, I think probably there, and actually I think that's more or less mixed in now. I'm certainly getting a froth. I'm going to try more multitasking. Oh, hang on, is it actually even in there? Yes, can't remember where my sieve is. I can't remember if it's in my dishwasher. Got a strange feeling it isn't. But it's the easiest place to look. No, I was right, it isn't. So let me try and, with as little disruption to the saucepan as possible, let me try and get in, not the saucepan, the camera as possible. Let me try and get into my... Oh, do you know what? It's not the sieve I wanted, but it's a sieve. That feels like a thicker custard. The camera is tipping. That's really not what I want. Has that made a custard? Yeah. Oh, that's disgusting. Actually, you know what, my first thought was that's disgusting, but actually having a little bit more of it, it wasn't too bad. I don't think I'm going to become a matcha tea aficionado, but that was bearable. Right, final little re-whisk and pour it through the sieve. See what I mean about it? It's much more Much easier to pour through the sieve and into the jug. I just want to take out the little bits of powder that didn't dissolve. Actually, that sieve worked wonderfully. Try and move that over there, because I don't want this ideally on the strong heat. Push that back there. Get out something that I can manipulate this with. That will do. Because much the same problem with the chocolate of last time, I think the powder is just blocking the ability of the liquid to go through. So if I just gently move it out of the way, we get more of the liquid through. And this is where, gosh, that's turned my entire sieve green. And this is where mostly I'm going to be diverging from the booklet recipe. I don't think we need that sludge in there. Because the booklet at this point just has you pour it into the moulds. I'm going to do that on one, after I've dried it. But then I'm also going to talk about why I don't think that's going to work. And in doing so, I need to also talk about why ice cream machines work and what they're doing. Because if it was as easy as just making the mixtures and pouring it into a container and putting it in the freezer, ice cream would be extremely easy to make. And it's not difficult to make, but it's not extremely easy to make. It's also had lids. Let me find a lid. There we go. I'll also bring a plate over, because I don't really want it directly on the heat of the hob. There is a induction hob, so it shouldn't be that hot. There. So the bowl of an ice cream machine, whether that is one that you have frozen in the freezer or one that has a condenser, a self-freezing unit essentially, the bowl is frozen. And what's happening as the mixture goes through it, let me just pour this in. What's happening as the mixture goes through is, that's about the right amount. Didn't get too much spillage. Is the part of the mixture welcome back after a very short break. It wasn't meant to be this short. My original plan, and some of this was explained whilst the technical failure of the last portion of video happened, but now I have to repeat it again. Because part of what you missed was me putting a lid on a pot and then putting it in the freezer. I don't think anyone needs me to demonstrate how to do that. If you do, maybe these videos are aimed a little bit above your head. But the other thing that I was talking about is why I don't think their method is going to work. So I don't know exactly what part it had got up to, so I might be repeating something you've already heard. My apologies if I am. So the instructions just say put the mixture into the moulds, put them straight in the freezer. But I don't think that'll work, because they've not actually made ice cream. All they've done is frozen some liquid. And I think it really makes sense now to talk about how an ice cream machine works. Why do we bother doing it? Why don't we all just mix the milk and cream up, throw it in a pot and freeze it? And actually, it probably just makes more sense if I show you an ice cream machine. So let me take a hold of the camera. My apologies, I really don't have steady hands. And just open it up there. So the pot, this part, is frozen. And as the mixture, which is not obviously in there right now, but as the mixture goes around, the very outside layer of it also freezes as it comes into contact with the pot. However, this part, that I call a paddle, some people call it a dasher, is scraping off that layer of very thin frozen ice cream and combining it back into the overall mixture. And as it does that, more and more rounds of it. Just meant on something that wobbled there. That was slightly unnerving. When I did that, when I stepped on something that wobbled, I ended up tearing most of the ligaments in my ankle and needing 2 years of recovery. So I'm always wary when that happens. Where'd I got to? Yes, the paddle is scraping off the very thin layer of frozen ice cream and recombining it, and as it does more and more of that, let me just put that back on and go back over to the camera. go back to the tripod even. As it does more of that, you end up with the ice cream. So let's rearrange it. How have I managed to mess up the tripod this much just by taking the camera off of it? Now, making ice cream is all about controlling the water and making it into small ice crystals. That is how it makes it into small ice crystals. The way of just pouring it into a pot and freezing it is basically going to mix it into one big ice crystal. So yes, it will freeze. I don't think it'll freeze into something that resembles ice cream, but I could be wrong, which is why I've given them the benefit of the doubt and I've made one their method. But I'm going to make the other three my method because I think my one will work better. The other thing you missed me talking about was I was originally going to film this later. Today I was going to let the mixture cool and then put it into my ice cream machine. And then as I was saying that, it occurred to me, I have a compressor machine. It's not a great idea to put hot mixture into them often. But I have done it before. It takes a little bit longer to churn, but it does do it. And actually, I probably put it in hot on this because it has still been in the fridge for the better part of about 10-15 minutes whilst I was clearing up over on my hob surface so I can put the sound. What would you call it? It's not soundproofing. Echo reducing pillow over onto that. If I'd known I was going to do that, I'd have made more effort to not make it too messy. But I changed my mind on this at the last minute because I didn't want the flavour to actually develop all that much. Because I suspect the flavour will end up different between the two ice creams. And between the two methods, my method and the just freeze it method. But I wanted that to be because the methods were different, not because I had let the mixture mature. Hence why I'm going to be churning it now so that it tastes more or less the same as the mixture that I've just poured into that mould. So without further ado, let us. This smells a lot worse than it tastes. Now remember, I need to be really careful with this because I'm not used to pouring very thin liquids. See, I wasn't that careful. There we go. This has made a lot more ice cream than I would have liked to have done because there's only so little you can churn. So I've still got about that much left in the jug. Can't easily see that, can you? Sometimes I just drink it if it's something I like. So if that had been the chocolates, I'd have just drunk it. I'm not going to do that on this because I didn't think it was okay, the flavour of it. Green tea is not my favourite form of tea. I like black or white tea. So I thought the flavour was okay, but I don't think I just want to drink a load of it. Now, you can see the problem of doing this is you actually get a little bit of condensation. It'll work fine. It churned it fine the last time I did it. Just needed a little bit longer. So I should come back to this. I don't actually want it necessarily to freeze to the hard, you can't see the finger quotes, level texture. Because I do still want to be able to pour it into a mould. So I don't want it to be like the ones where I have it all stuck to the paddle. So I'll be checking on it. I'm really going to give that about half an hour before I come back to it. And then I'll check on it from then on and see how it's developing. And when it's ready to get into the moulds, I'll be back with you. Oh, and by the way, the technical failures that I sometimes get, I've worked out what they are. It's where I record for longer than 30 minutes. It cuts me off at 30 minutes. So even my camera thinks I talk too much. I've just stopped the ice cream machine. I've stopped it before my usual point because, as I said, I did want to be able to pour this to at least some extent. I'm running out of room on my... Oh, that was nice noise. On my worktop here. So it's still a relatively liquid, although it's not proper pouring liquid. I need to go and get something to scrape that off. Didn't think about that. Yeah, it's still relatively liquid. I'm going to put it into a jug because it will be easier to pour from the jug. I've also got a pot somewhere in this because there will be ice cream left over. I think this is going to be a gift to my colleagues. ice cream. I don't hate my colleagues, by the way. I just don't think I like this flavour enough to eat an entire container of it. It's not bad. It's not, as I said, it's not my favourite type of tea, style of tea, but it's not bad. That's what you want to hear about. It's something that you're going to be eating, isn't it? It's not bad. Oh, get that out of there. I was trying to think what water froze, but it will be from the condensation. So I'm going to put this in a jug, then I'm going to bring my ice lolly moulds back over, pour it into those. I have just realised that the tripod is in front of the dishwasher where the ice lolly mould lids are. So you're probably still not going to see me put a lid on a mould. And then I'll pour the rest of it into the pot. That's probably enough. Let's pop it back in there. It'll keep it a bit frozen. So will this pour or will it not? There's my spoon gone. Let's just mix it up a little bit. Remember, my theory is these three will be a better texture because I froze the ice cream in smaller crystals. I will say it's nowhere near as easy to get it into the moulds though. So that's a bonus the manufacturer's method has. Slightly too much mixture in each of these, but that's probably what the lids are for. So actually, I am going to show you getting a lid. In fact, so you can also see the Dymo machine in the background there. If I just get one lid out, I can show you one lid. I reckon that's probably going to flatten it, isn't it? Yeah, pushes it out. That's fun, that's how that works. I have no more utensils. There's the utensil. This is just going to be one big mess. My friend bought me mess for Christmas. Here's the other lid. I was only going to show you one, wasn't I? It's just as easy to show you all of them. And then when I put them in the freezer, I can stack them, so that's at least something. Yeah. What did your friends get you for Christmas? A cleaning up experience. Do you know what? They're going on a plate. I'm not having that making them mess up of my new freezer. Well, not my new freezer, but my newly fairly empty freezer. Oh, and that's now gone into the mixture. These are the duvets that keep the sound relatively decent. There's not much on there. They're not actually duvets I put on the bed. They don't fit my bed anymore. And from when I still had a single bed. I'm now in the high life of a nice double bed, no king size bed. Right, much as my freezer is newly empty, where are these going to go? You don't really need to hear and see this part, so I will catch up with you once the lollies are frozen and it's time to do the chocolate dunking part. That's not going to be messy at all, is it? We're over on the other counter near the microwave, which is needed to melt and heat and melt the chocolate. I'd also like to say it's come to my attention there's been an issue with the audio. It's due to a loose connection in my camera's microphone socket. Apparently it is a known flaw with this camera. What I've done probably as a more permanent solution is ordered a separate voice recorder, which I will hopefully be using to do the actual audio recording in future. However, for today, as long as I hold basically you have to put something into the microphone socket to receive the signal, etc., etc. As long as it's held at a particular angle, it works. It records to both channels. The issue is it was only recording to one channel, and I'm just using sellotape to hold it there. So it might be better, it might not. We'll see. My apologies if it's not. Apparently, it's not an issue as long as you don't listen to it on headphones. Because whilst things like laptop speakers and television speakers are stereo, they're generally quite close together, so you can't really tell that it's not coming through too. But maybe it was better at some point of this. I can tell that it's already loosened. I had been considering, I'm just going to take it off, it's not going to work. I had been considering cancelling the order of the voice recorder, if that works. And it works as long as there's someone to hold it, which there isn't. Right, so for today, we need, where's all of my chocolates gone there? There's some of them. Probably don't want to use the 90 because that was the one I liked. Well, I liked them all, but that was the best one. So let's keep that there. But I should have between them 150 grams of all the other chocolates. Remember, this is in the recipe meant to be white chocolate, but I'm not buying white chocolate just for this. Not when I've got lots of dark chocolate around. So let's break it up into small pieces into the handy, it's not rubber, what is it? It's some form of plastic cup. It says it's all recycled, I think is what it said. Let's get the box down. No, it just says it's in compliance with the European and FDA regulatory requirements for food contact materials. I thought I saw that it was recycled somewhere. It might have been something else. You end up with so much at this time of year. I remember I was once at my friend's house, and at the time his niece and nephew were quite young, particularly his niece. And I just think they were getting overwhelmed with presents. Wouldn't it have been better to just give them one, let them enjoy that for a while, and then give them another one, rather than immediately thrusting another present in their face? When you don't have kids, you don't get to have an opinion on how parenting goes. But I really do think that would have been the better way around. Right, that was all of the Pump Street 100. 29. Oh, I might not have enough. I need 150 grams of chocolate. Reason I don't need more, remember I made 3 times the amount of ice cream mixture, but I don't need 3 times the amount of chocolate because I still only have the same number of lollies. I don't have 3 times the amount of ice cream lollies. I might have to use the 90%. Hang on. No, I don't. Remember, I have chocolate that was of unknown values. I can go and use that. Where did I put that? Where did I go in this cupboard? That went in that cupboard. Let's get that out. There we go. This is very boring for you. I apologise. I probably should do more of this off camera. That's 260. Let's get the Ecuador 80% from the Tozier one. I didn't show you this one because I think I filmed with the Pump Street, but not the Tozier. It's not as pretty as the Pump Street. It's much more classic. It comes in little squares. But it's not as pretty. It's also not as thick. 82, and then what are these bars in? 52 grams. Between them, I'm going to have enough. It's going to be a weird mixture of chocolate, this, though. Okay. That's also very pretty. This is the one that ended up unfortunately having to be discounted. But look at that. Look how beautiful that is. I'm probably going to fast forward through a bit of this now, because it is just me breaking up chocolate. So I'll see you when it's ready to, well, almost ready to melt. There's one more thing it needs. There we go, 150.61. So by anyone, any other scale standard, 150. Now the other thing it needs is 10 grams of coconut oil. This actually is a new pot, but only because I hadn't realised I'd run out of my last one. I actually do use coconut oil. It's quite a good trick for trying to get things to stay a bit more liquid. So 10 grams of it. Okay. It's also really good for popping popcorn, by the way, coconut oil. I find it works better than a lot of other ones. A little bit like unsalted butter. It is disappointing if you eat it. You think it's going to have a really strong, lovely coconut creamy taste. It doesn't. Right, and there is a pot of 150 grams of chocolate and 10 grams of coconut oil. Now the instructions say just burst it in a microwave at 20-second intervals. So, fine. Where's that spoon for the coconut oil gone? Because I may as well use that to stir it. And I might also just throw away the debris of the chocolate as well. That was a good thing to do to get, unless I get rid of it. I would have managed to get rid of it, I'm sure. Hopefully, that's not really done anything. It's done nothing. It's going in for a minute. There we go. So that one can go back into the cupboard. Which one's that? That's the 100%. All of these can go into recycling. Oh, maybe it was this that was recycled packaging. I'm sure there was something in recent days that has been described as recycled. Let's try and get the chocolate shards off of the duvet, the soundproofing duvet. That was a tip from a friend of mine. I think it's helped. It's maybe not the easiest to tell when the audio's gone wrong. I didn't realise because I don't put headphones on whilst I'm doing these. And as I say, it doesn't, as long as you've not got headphones which is actively trying to divert it down two channels, you don't really notice it. So my apologies if you've been sitting there getting really frustrated with the audio quality. I don't know exactly when it happened. My friend notified me about it on, I think, the slow one, but we can't work out when exactly it started. That's starting to melt. Let's do that for another, let's go for 30 seconds. That's a very strange mixture of chocolates. The ice cream's sweet. Also, by the way, I haven't taken the ice creams out of the freezer. This may, do you know what, I should have done that, because if it hasn't worked, I've just melted all that chocolate for nothing. Blast. It's too late now. I get very impatient with microwaves. I want them to, that bit where you want to try and get in there just before the beep. There we go. Another stir. Probably doesn't need too much longer. There's only a couple of little bits in there. I reckon if I gave that 20 seconds, that'd be fine. And then we'll get to see, how did I put them in the freezer in the end? I think I put them on a plate. I did put them on a plate because there was no way they were going to be messing up my freezer. Right, that's good. We've got a pot of shiny looking chocolate. Just try and hold it there. And then, the moment of truth. Take them out of the freezer. It's really easy to get the entire drawer out of the freezer. Oh, I don't know if this has worked. This is most definitely going in the experimental part. Right, this is the one that was just the pour one. Now, one thing I did think is I'm not sure how we end up getting it with the stick off, but I'm not trying to get the lid out either. That's difficult. And that's how it looks. How am I going to do this? Let's get a plate, because I have to go on a plate. So I presume just pop it and peel it. Oh, do you know what? That actually works. Oh, do you know what? That is good. That is, I'm very happy with that. That's how that one looks. And then let's just dunk it in the chocolate. Doesn't quite get to the bottom. And then it falls off of the ice cream. Oh, that's messy. Oh, that's messy. Oh, that's horrid. Why did my friend buy me this? And this is one of the ones where I churn the ice cream first. See the slight difference in the texture there? It hasn't frozen as well, though. The texture looks better, but it didn't freeze very well at all. But it hasn't frozen, really. Oh, God, no, that's awful. Let's do my best with that. Where's that plate gone? There. Oh, this is just... No. Why would anyone do this? Just think a bit of the ice cream. The ice cream is not bad. It's not my favourite flavour. I like tea, but it's a bit earthy. Alright, lid off. I wonder if this one... There's a chance that some of them froze better than others. No. The problem is it kind of has to freeze as one ice block. That one's mildly better than the last one, actually. This is... Oh, and that's on the floor. That's really annoying. That's actually on the duvet. I don't want that. There we go. This is not good for Raynaud's, by the way. Ice cream in general is not a good hobby for people with Raynaud's syndrome, which I do have. Basically, it's where you're, oh, we've got melted ice cream. Oh, God, this is awful. I don't like this. Do you know what? 3's enough. I'm happy with 3. Because they're all melting. Let's try and get those into the freezer as quickly as possible. Let's see if we can save that. Oh, my hands hurt. I will say the kitchen itself is not too much of a mess. Oh, that does hurt. And there's one that I just can't be dealing with. So in the end, I've got 2. I've got the one with their method, which I think is a better method for getting it out of the pot. But I'm not sure how well it's going to go in an ice cream. I also need to rearrange my freezer, because that's going to be taking up space for a while. What don't I want? Oh, I have... No, I'm just going to take these. I'm just going to take them out to the chest freezer. Take them out to the chest freezer. That's going to be tricky to rearrange. So yeah, there's the one that's using their method, which I don't think will make the better ice cream, but does make it fine to get out of the case. And there's my method, which I think is better for ice cream, but I don't think it's better for making this style of ice cream. So I'll let those solidify as much as they're going to. How are they going to get off of the plate? There's not going to be chocolate sticking them to a plate. That's a problem for future. So I'll let those solidify and come back and see how this little venture has gone. And then here they are. I don't know how I'm going to get them off the plate. I was going to do the whole which one's which, but you can tell which one's which. That is the one that followed the rest of the instructions. This is the one where I tried to do my own thing. I'm not even going to try this one because it's stuck in presumably ice cream that melted on contact with the hot chocolate. How am I going to do this? I guess I'm just eating that. Oh, I don't like eating eating ice cream anyway. That's a strange flavour combination. It probably would have been better with the white chocolate. Get a bit more of it. It's actually pretty nice. And then let's try and get. Oh! I managed to get that one off. I think I can get this one off. No, that one's gonna. I think the lesson we've learned is because you end up with air in it, you make them much more fragile and breakable when you churn the ice cream and then put it in. But I actually managed to get the one that I didn't churn off. A little bit messy, but it's picked up a little bit of the pattern of my plate as well. Oh. You definitely get the ice crystals. I don't know how well that's going to come out on camera, but there's actually layers of ice in that one. Whereas, let's just try and get a little bit of this ice cream. On that one, it's just as normal ice cream. Which is exactly what I said would happen. This freezes as one big ice crystal, this one doesn't. But because it's got the air, it's much less stable, therefore it falls apart and you can't really treat it in the same way. I could have put this on something like a silicone baking mat maybe, and it would have been better. That might show it a bit better if the camera focuses, which I can't tell if it is or isn't. This wasn't really intended as a review video. It was more me just doing something for amusement. But let's do pros, neutrals, and cons anyway. Pros is, to a certain degree, it works. You do make, I chewed off the top of it, but you do make something that is a chocolate-covered ice cream lolly. It was also quite easy to clean, which you may not believe me because I spent so long complaining about how messy it was, but that was mostly messy over my hands. The kitchen was fine. Everything to do with it is dishwasher safe, so you can just throw it in a dishwasher if you have one. This was my first house where I had a dishwasher, by the way. I'd never had one before, and I thought, I don't know, I can be bothered using that. I use it all the time. Love that dishwasher. The ice cream also tastes quite nice. It's not my favourite flavour. It's a little bit earthy. I prefer crisper tea flavourings, but the ice cream itself was quite nice, and I'm sure the other ones are. Other pros, it was quite fun. Again, you may not believe me because I spent so long complaining about it, but I did actually quite enjoy it. Neutral, some people say these are small. I don't know that they're that small. They're probably about the right size for a kid, and if you're an adult, you're in control of your own ice cream intake. Just eat more of them if you think they're small. I don't think that's a con, I think that's a neutral. But anything else that's neutral? Not really. So cons, the method of getting the ice cream in there doesn't really work either way. Because if you do it their way, you do end up with big kind of layers of ice crystals. And if you do it my way, you end up with something that you can't actually touch or can't actually separate. So neither way works wonderfully for getting the ice cream into the molds. I have ideas. I don't tend to do them because I do have an ice cream machine, but you can get no churn ice cream recipes. I wonder if you used one of those, whether you would end up with something that had a better mouthfeel, but also worked in the machine. So, will I do this again? Yes, probably, not on camera. And I probably would experiment with different recipes because I don't think their way works, but I don't think my way worked either. But I wonder if there are recipes out there that would work with it. And to be fair, I said I probably wouldn't do it on camera again, but if I manage to get it working properly, I might do, just to show you all a way that you can use this to make good ice cream, chocolate covered ice cream lollies. But overall, I have more positive things to say than I have negative things to say. The negative thing is a fairly big thing, unfortunately, but I think it's fixable. And I think this was a good Christmas gift. I'm very pleased with this. Thank you to my friend who bought me this. So next week, I'm afraid the next week, maybe even the next 2 weeks, are not going to be fun for you if you don't like tea. Next week, I'm going to make the tea ice cream that I was going to make this week if my friends had bought me tea for Christmas. I need to go and get some tea. Well, I have got tea in that cupboard, I think. It just might not be the tea that I would ideally use for tea ice cream, but it's workable. It means I use something I've already got rather than buy something else. So I might end up just using the tea that I've got. And the week after that, there were 2 ways to make tea ice cream. Next week is the one that I already do a fair bit, but the week after that, I might do the other method, doing kind of like a little bit of an experimental video more rather than a tutorial one. But I'll see. I may change my mind. I might think the 2 weeks of tea ice cream, including this one, is enough. But tea ice cream next week. Hope to see you back for that one.